What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and today we're going to be talking about possibly one of the most hyped leaders released so far in the One Piece card game, that being Marshall D. Teach. Recently we got Teach, or Blackbeard as you may know him, revealed for set 9 for Emperor's booster box, releasing in Japan on August 31st and in the English version in December, on December 13th. So quite a ways before we even get to see him in action here for us in the West. But let's go ahead. In today's video, we're going to be talking about his leader ability, some of the support cards that have been revealed so far as of this recording here in July. And we'll be talking about some of the possible cards that are going to be used to back him up, and we get a better idea after seeing some of his support. So first up, of course, we have the leader, All Stank Breath himself. Straight up static effect. Your on-play abilities don't activate. So what this does is cards like Gecko Moria, Robert Lucci, Rebecca, all of these cards don't activate if you play them in this leader, which completely shifts how we know Black has been played. It's moving away from that, but then on top of that, he has activate main. You may trash one card from your hand until the end of your opponent's next turn. Your opponent's on-play abilities don't activate. Now, my first impressions of this leader are you're not going to use this in the early game just because you're not going to want to sacrifice that card advantage. But once you get to, say, Moria is still relevant, the 8-drop, you're going to want to start playing that in the later game and start using this effect just to prevent them from being able to use those and giving them dead cards, but also taking away their benefits like Lucci or Brook. The one thing about Brook, though, is Brook does have when attacking, so he's not just on play, but things like Sakazuki, things like Reiju, so with that in mind, of course, RP Law, super solid. There is a ban list coming, so I am going to talk about that in another video, so do feel free to hit that subscribe button if you want to know my thoughts on what could possibly be the ban list. We're going to have one, not us here, but Asia will see one near the end of August, right before OP-09 comes out. So I imagine it'll cascade to us here, so definitely want to stay tuned for that. But RP Law is a bit, they can do anything on any turn. So, like, yeah, you can do it in the late turns, but they can just go ahead and burn their on plays on their early turns, and there isn't a ton of them. Like Gordon still goes through, Maria's activate main, so a lot of things get around this. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is him going into an RP Law tier 0 meta. I don't think he stacks up to that. TBD, because we have to see the effects, but I think he has potential, especially like he takes out yellow, Pudding. You'll probably start discarding earlier against those. Even Marco takes away Sanji, takes away the ace. Like, they can't swarm the board as much. So I'm super excited to see. Obviously, you know, as the ace guy, I got some feelings, but it is what it is. You know, I could be playing this leader, so we'll see. But yeah, this is the leader. Let's go ahead and dive into the cards we've seen. So first up, we've got Laffitte. I don't know how you actually say that, so my bad, y'all. But I'm going to say Laffitte, like he got a nice little fit on. He's a 1-drop 1K. He has counter. Activate main, you may rest this character and one of your Don. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal to one Blackbeard Pirates card, and add it to your hand, and replace the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So he's just like a Blackbeard Jewelry Bonnie. You get to search. He can search himself, and he activates main instead of being on play. So really gets your engine going. So I imagine there's going to be some crazy support. But yeah, so we have a searcher, and then this card, honestly, so this card, Jesus Burgess. No. You know, that's that guts in me. But he's a 4/5 with counter. He is a Blackbeard, but static effect. This character cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effects. strong in my opinion, especially if they're not going to unban Sakazuki in the ban list, because I think it either goes one of two ways. You unban a lot of stuff or you ban a lot more stuff. So interested to see which route they take, because RP Law is a menace in OP08, and of course they can just bottom deck him, but he does have an extra effect. If your leader has the Blackbeard Pirates type, this character gets plus 1,000 power for every card in your trash. For every 4 cards. So every 4, you're getting plus 1,000. So if you had 3 cards in your trash, you don't get it. But if you had 12 cards in your trash, you gain 3,000 power. So this could be really strong if it has a mill engine. If it doesn't have a mill engine, this card's probably a 4-6. Maybe a 4-7 late game, but the fact it can't be KO'd could be huge. Your opponent can't activate main, but then you can also play this and they just can't KO it. RP Law, of course, can bottom deck it unless he comes in with a decent power boost to where they would need to use Gordon and something, making it slightly expensive to answer. But yeah, I think this card could just see play just because he can't be KO'd static. In a world without Law and Sakazuki, I could see this being a staple. And then Van Augur. So he's a 5-6, 1,000 counter. Activate main. You may rest this character. If your leader has the Blackbeard Pirates type, give one of your opponent's characters -3 cost for this turn. And then when KO'd, you draw 1 card. So that's nice, the fact that he's going to replace himself. But on top of that, we get our first glimpse at an idea of what the other cards are going to do, because they specifically give him a character with minus. I imagine we're going to see expensive, like a 8 cost, 9 cost Blackbeard, and he's going to have something to do with character cost abilities. So interesting to see. Maybe it's your opponent can't activate abilities for characters with, like, you know, or like your opponent's X cost characters can't attack, and so to like stick on them. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see if they take the removal route or if they're going to have something else, just because we kind of see with his ability. And then of course again he replaces himself, but Robin is technically stronger, and so is Laboon in terms of what they can minus. So do with that what you will, but let's go ahead and talk about some other cards here. Speaking of Laboon, of course, you may rest this character, give 20 of your opponent's characters -4 cost. So he's a 4-5, and so you're minusing 4 for 4. You know that Wendy's 4 for 4? That's Laboon. But if we have Van Augur, he only minuses 3. If minus is important, I could definitely see Laboon, since he is, to my knowledge, the only... the best, because there is, of course, Tashigi and a couple others, but the best resting activate main to do minus. And then we have Garp. Garp is, of course, a form of removal. Old Navy card from the Sokka decks. You may trash 1 card from your hand. Rest this character. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a 4 cost or less. So you play this on 9, Laboon Garp, you're KOing an 8. So you just got rid of Gecko or Isho or whoever. So there's definitely something there. And of course he has removal that sticks. But then of course we have the best removal. Again, this is OP09. So OP08 would already be out. We haven't received OP08 yet. But there is Jack, which is a new staple for black going into OP08. He gains 4 costs, so he's always an 11 cost, which makes him a lot harder to be answered when he's on board. But on top of that, you can activate main. You may rest this card, draw 1 card, and trash 1 card. Sokka, who? Then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3 costs or less. So you can, of course, use that, but he's a sticky body, hard to minus to remove, and he's an 8K, so also hard to swing on, and he can continually answer bodies by resting, and he also gives you cycle, which we hadn't had before. So very strong card, infinitely better than Garp 2, because you don't have to pay a card, you just have to rest him. So he's slightly better Garp, but you can of course play Garp earlier. And so if you go like, you go 4, 6 play Garp, 8 play Jack, you might be getting somewhere. But yeah, Jack definitely the strongest form of removal potentially for Blackbeard, because his effect is activate main. And then another card that we get in OP08 also is Kaido. You may discard one card from your hand, so he does have a cost if this character was played this turn. So it's almost like he wants to be on play, but they specifically wrote him to be activate main, so I imagine he's going to have some synergy with this deck, and it was made with OP-09 in mind. Because then, of course, if you're the opponent playing against Blackbeard, you're going to want effects like these as well, so it's just going to increase the value and importance of Kaido and Jack. But yeah, you can place up to one of your opponent's 7 costs or lower in the trash. So it trashes them. It doesn't even KO them, so it gets around Sabo. And then on top of that, your opponent will also discard 1 card. So you'll go card for card. Huge fan of this card. I think if it wasn't for RP Law, this card would shine just a little bit more. But they don't play any large bodies. In a large body meta, I think this card really has a place. Especially like if you're playing Lucci, you go stage, leader swing, you're literally trashing any cost card. But yeah, and it's only on play though. He's not recurring like Jack. So Jack is better, but then of course more activate main characters. We've got one-legged soldier. Activate main, you may send this character to the trash, give it to one of your opponent's characters, cost -3. So he allows you to facilitate minus in ways that like you don't get from Suru, so it's quite possible you play this just as a Suru replacement for that minus, depending on the patterns in which the deck revolves around. Is it still removal? Like what direction are we taking? What is the pro of minusing in Blackbeard is the question yet to be answered. And then of course finally we have Kobe, kind of an old card, not the strongest card in history, but it does, he's a rester. He only has 1,000, so he's easy to answer, but he KOs a 2 cost or less, all while not having to trash a card. And you can, of course, see Garp in the background, little hint there. But yeah, overall thoughts on the deck. I think he has some real potential. Of course, with a ban list in mind, it really leaves everything up in the air. But things like Bonnie that has a ton of on plays, like Doflamingo, suddenly worthless. So is Hody, a lot of those characters. So you can really disvalue your opponent. So I'm really interested to see how he plays out in the meta. Let me know in the comments below. Are you excited to play Blackbeard in OP-09? And if you could do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a ton.